public safety meeting for Thursday, August 24th. We're going to call the meeting to order now. We're going to start with a pledge of allegiance. We're going to use Commissioner Casey's flag. So all rise and join me in the pledge of allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Thank you, everybody. And we'll start with roll call. Carrie Ann, please.
DeGanga?
Here.
Viero?
Here. On audio, but not on Teams. Here.
Sierra?
I'm here on audio.
Sassy?
Here.
Lujan?
Present.
Hines?
Here. Okay, everybody's here. Welcome, everybody. We're going to go ahead and get started. First up, I need a motion for discussion. Let's see, from Commissioner Casey and Deputy Commissioner Cherry. Request to accept and appropriate federal funds from the State of New York Governor's Traffic Safety Committee for the 2021 Traffic Safety Program grant for the continuance of providing educational programs to reduce the incidence of fatalities and serious personal injury vehicle accidents. The county will administer the funds, $65,870. Do I have a motion, please?
So moves, DeGanga.
DeGanga motion. Is there a second?
Vero.
Second, Vero. Okay, Commissioner, you want to, everybody please mute yourself if you're not talking. Commissioner Casey, please highlight this for us.
This is a grant we get every year to support our educational programs in the schools. It funds Johnny Jones and his team that go out and do these traffic safety programs out in the high schools. So it's something we do every year.
Does anybody have any questions for the commissioner on this? Okay, hearing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Is there anybody opposed? Okay, so carried unanimous. Next up, I have letter B with Commissioner Casey again. I don't know if Alan Mack is joining us. Letter B, request to accept and appropriate fiscal year 2020 Emergency Management Performance Grant for COVID-19 supplemental programs. Funding is provided by U.S. Department of Homeland Security and FEMA to be used to prevent, prepare for, and respond to COVID-19 public health emergencies. We'll utilize funding to purchase PPE and replenish inventory. Target distribution includes medical care facilities, medical first responders, and public safety first responders. $81,502. Does everybody want to sponsor this?
Yes, please.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so hearing no objections, we're going to put all on as sponsors. Carrie Ann, Commissioner Casey, the floor is yours.
So this was a supplemental grant that came up, obviously, as a result of COVID. Craig Cherry and Alan Mack keep an eye out for those things. It popped up, and we said, yeah, we'll take it. So it's another $80,000 and change, $81,000 for PPE, which once we get the approval and get the money in, we'll get some more masks and gowns and face shields to supplement our stockpile and to assist any first responders or people that need stuff out there. So it just goes into our main storeroom, and everything is distributed out of there as an as-needed basis.
Okay, that's pretty self-explanatory. And after we approve this, the commissioner is going to highlight basically his office's actions continuing actions with respect to the pandemic, and also get into the 911 issue. So for this particular issue alone, the PPE grant, are there any questions for the commissioner? Okay, hearing none, we'll call the question. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye again.
Aye.
Is there anybody opposed? Hearing none, that's so carried unanimous. Commissioner, do you want to just go ahead and give us the state of the pandemic with respect to your office in Orange County at this time?
Well, we still have the EOC operational. It's really just Alan Mack and some of his team in there. Health will come in occasionally, and general services. Most of the PPE that we've acquired, we've pushed out Our last big push was out to BOCES as a distribution hub to the schools to help the schools get ready for whatever school's going to look like. That seems to change on a daily basis. So we continue to track hospitalizations and all the numbers that everybody wants to know about. But, you know, we're, as most of you know, we're in a pretty good place in Orange County right now. Pretty low infection rate, low number of cases. So, you know, we're just hoping that we don't see the predicted resurgence in the fall with the coming flu season. So we're prepared to respond, and we just stay in an enhanced monitoring mode at this point, continuing forward. And the EOC will remain open for the foreseeable future, I guess.
Okay, thank you. We're not supplying schools. We're just giving schools some of the initial items. They're going to take care of themselves though from here on out, right?
Yeah, we had received a lot of bulk shipments from FEMA through New York State. So we had those Hanes, the underwear masks we call them. We had hundreds of thousands of those. So we're pushing that stuff out. We had a lot of surplus. We have our strategic stockpile. The additional grant funding will allow us to get even more of that. But we did have additional stuff, and we did this all along with when the barbershops came online, dentists, you know, the restaurants were trying to get up and running. Any type of stuff that we had that was surplus, we're trying to help people get back on their feet. And that's been our kind of model all along. So the schools were next in line. We had some surplus stuff, and we pushed it out through BOCES.
Okay. These, I read in the paper, there's another like 12 cases a day, 13 cases a day. Are those targeted areas or are they sporadic? Do you know that, or do we have to ask?
I don't know if
Dr.
Dr.
Gelman
can speak to that, but, you know, I think a lot of it is she probably knows where the hot spots are, and she pays very coy with whether to announce that or not, or just to directly deal with those hot spots. So I think they are. My impression is there are certain areas. It's you know, congregate housing when you live you know, in close proximity to numerous people, 2-bedroom apartment, 7 people, that type of stuff. So that's my sense. And travel, like a lot of the kids now, they're going back to college. You can't tell the college kids, you know, you haven't seen your friends for a year. We don't want you to get together and have a drink. They do that, and you know, some of these parties have been some hot spots, and then they travel back. So, but we're still, you know, as of now, Orange County's in a good spot.
Okay. Anybody have any questions for the commissioner?
Lujan.
Go ahead, Kevin Darren Lujan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And thank you, Commissioner Casey. So just a quick question in regards to some of that material. Are you still, is your office still giving out some things for legislators to be able to pick up? I haven't checked in recently, but I do have a group that is doing a back to school book bag giveaway, and it's they usually have about 2,000 kids that they give book bags to, and I know that they would definitely masks would definitely be very, very well received there. You know, especially the Hanes masks, those packages. So if you do have some, I'd be happy to come by and get them. Or if you want to,
I know Lee Benton asked me the same thing, and we don't have any more surplus at this point, other than our strategic reserve. We've pushed everything out that we could. So, you know, if the legislature as a group wanted to do a purchase or put together an order through general services, that would be the best way to go, unless we start getting big FEMA pushes or, you know, stuff coming in. We wanted to get out of the business of just being Walmart, you know, Amazon distribution, where we were either buying a lot with county tax dollars or taking in a lot and just distributing it to everybody. So we've put that message out. We've pushed out everything that we have aside from our strategic reserve. So we don't really have anything left to do targeted things. Health may have some stuff left. I know they're doing something with Catholic Charities maybe today. So they have some stuff, but I don't think we have the bulk stuff like we used to have.
Okay. Is that something that Mr. Chairman, that this committee thinks might be interested in doing, or more PPE?
Got to unmute, Kev.
Hello?
Yeah, I think the county executive has spent over $4 million on PPE already, so I think we could probably call his office and see if it's something he wants to entertain. If not, then I would say maybe Ways and Means would entertain it on Tuesday, but I leave that up to Chairman Benton. I don't know. I think the school districts have their own budget that they should be running. Obviously, they didn't save for this, but neither did we. But it's something that we could talk about. I know, like I said, the county executive has also been very aggressive with that, giving out supplies all over the county. So I think we should start with a phone call to him if you're so inclined. And if he has any ideas, or we could certainly appropriate the funds at Ways and Means if somebody thought it was necessary.
I'll be happy to reach out. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Chairman,
Okay. Anybody else have any questions?
I would do,
Legislator
Mr.
Ganga?
Ganga.
Go ahead.
Hi, I think before we do any of that, we should check with the school districts, because I believe that the schools themselves are going to be offering that for all the children. So before
Yeah,
we
it's gonna be a
do
requirement.
a double on top of that, I believe the schools are required by the opening procedures that they have to supply the masks and everything for all the kids to go to school.
Yeah, that's correct. The school is required, if they're going to have kids in attendance, to supply staff and kids with masks.
Every school district has their own policies, but I have an after-school program, just like Kevin Darian was talking about. And this organization's putting together these backpacks. They're putting lunches together and stuff like that. And they did ask me for personalized masks and hand sanitizers. But whatever the channels are, I would be in support of getting more supplies. I mean, especially if we're going to get a reinsurgence in the fall, like everybody's predicting. I mean,
Right.
it's money well spent, in my opinion.
And Mr. Chairman, if I may,
Sure.
just add to that. These programs, particularly the one that Legislator Sierra and myself are referring to, they're often programs that particularly address marginalized communities, particularly communities that may or may not have gotten information. So the idea was to try to also get, with these masks, information from DOH about how to wear masks, about information about COVID. This is kind of essentially an extension of the hard work that they've all been doing. But as you all know, some of these communities, particularly here in the city of Newburgh, continues to lead in COVID-19, and it's still impacted. And while sure the school district is definitely going to be doing everything that it can, as you pointed out, it's still going to be, this is going to be an ongoing thing until December, maybe even more. And so we want to make sure that any extra help that we can give our community members is definitely worth doing. And this is just a great operation. 2,000 kids are going to have book bags. And so this is an easy opportunity for us to be able to at least get, for example, just in that situation, 2,000 individuals masks, 2,000 families.
Right. Yeah, I don't disagree. And pretty much the high density housing is where the hotspots are, which is the very
Absolutely.
areas that the two of you are talking about. So let's start with the county executive and see what he puts together. I know the schools are also going to teach the kids how to wear masks as soon as they arrive. That's part of their startup plans that I've seen.
That is correct.
Anybody else questions for the commissioner? I see Chairman Brescia's hand is up. Chairman, are you there?
Have to unmute. Steve.
Yeah, I had to unmute myself. Yeah, but we also have to look at this vis-a-vis our budget too. I mean, we've really put a lot out there. I was down there with you, Kevin Darian, and a few others from the Department of Health handing out that literature way back when. But I mean, we had to cut our own budget in the legislative office, and the state's cut us, quite a bit at ad hoc in so many other areas. So we just have to see the affordability issue. We'd like to do as much as we could, certainly, or can certainly, but we're going to be discussing a budget here in a month and a little over a week, and we need to see what the situation is before we can really do much more. I mean, we've done quite a bit, and we need to talk to the county exec, like you said, Kevin, as well, Chairman.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, the schools are going to be I don't know how long it takes us to get our hands on additional PPE at this time, but I'm pretty sure the schools have the startup stuff, or maybe the families and things like that. But let's start with the county executive, and if necessary, we can maybe talk about this on Tuesday at Ways and Means if the Chairman Benton is so inclined, or Chairman Brescia for that matter. So any questions other than that for Commissioner Casey?
Hey, Chairman, Carl Du Bois here.
Yeah.
Kevin Darian, if,
Go ahead.
we have some, had some donated masks, that were, I don't want to say they're homemade, but they were, they were made by, made by other people and donated, and they're not really conducive, to my office. We don't have a lot of stuff. We don't have thousands, but, if you get into a pinch and you need you need 100 or so, I'd have to count and see what we have there. But get in touch with me, and I'll see what I can hook you up with.
Thank you, Sheriff. I'll definitely reach out, and every bit helps. And I just want to add that while I totally agree for our budget, prevention is a lot cheaper than addressing things. So I totally agree. Though we do need to make sure that we're careful with our budget, and this is tight for everybody. But again, paying it here and making sure that people don't get sick, I think is obviously why we've been trying to spend the money as we have. And but thank you, Sheriff. I really appreciate that. I'll definitely reach out.
No problem.
All right. Thank you. Anybody other questions for Commissioner Casey? Okay, hearing none, we're going to move on. Commissioner, you want to give us an update on the 911 issue with respect to Frontier Communications?
Yep. So, as most of you are aware, I put a memo out to all of you and a lot of our first responders as what happened past Tuesday night when the 911 system, part of it went down. Frontier they're our phone company, for better or worse. They had some aging infrastructure out of their headquarters in Middletown there. The system they had in place was in compliance with New York State Public Service Commission as far as what they needed to have to support 911. But it doesn't really address maintaining it properly, and it doesn't address geographical diversity of their switches and selective modems. So we had leadership from Frontier on the phone. They went through and explained what happened. Myself and Alan Mack were there that night up in Middletown, so we understood what happened. We were a little disappointed when we saw the infrastructure and how dated a lot their UPS battery backups were. Those have to be replaced all the time. We have them in this building, and you have to keep those up to date and replace them. I think Frontier is, they've been trying to sell themselves. I think they're kind of in a bad spot, and we're like I said, for better or worse, they're our phone company, so we're stuck with them for now. But what we did get them to agree to, which Alan Wierzbicki's been asking for many years, is some geographical diversity on their backup system. So you don't just have it in one building, you have it in separate physical locations, like we do with 911. If this entire building goes down, we can go to Fire Training Center and run it out of there. So they finally agreed to do that, and they're going to update us every week on the progress of it. So hopefully, with the geographical diversity and the backup systems that they're required to have, this won't happen again. So that's where we're at with Frontier.
Okay, and just for the record, the new radio system performed perfectly, because I know a lot of people said, "Oh, must be the radios." That was not the case, correct?
Yeah, no, the radio system's a completely separate system. That worked fine. As a matter of fact, one of the add-ons we put in the system, the Rapid SOS system, which uses the same technology as Uber to give us an exact location of a cell phone, that was working. So if you were to call us on a cell phone, you would get a busy signal, but we would see that number called and exactly where you were, and we could call you back. So I haven't heard of any reports of us missing any calls. So the hodgepodge of patchwork thing we put together to get us through that period of time seemed to work, but it shouldn't be us scrambling like that. And it was really, it's a Frontier issue, but ultimately we were able to pressure them into understanding the need for geographical diversity. I mean, if that Middletown building had burned to the ground, I don't know what the solution had been. They were able to get in there and fix what needed to be fixed, but the entire building goes down. Now what? So they understood that, and they're gonna do what we want them to do, is what they said. So.
And you did send some to the Public Service Commission too, I believe, right?
They were in on the meeting, the 911 coordinator for the state. He wasn't happy with the notification process from them. And, you know, they're in compliance with his guidelines, but we want it to be more robust. And they agreed after this incident, saying, look, this is why Alan Wierzbicki has been saying, you need to have these things geographically different. It can't just be in the same building. It has to be in separate geographical locations. So they agreed to that, and we'll see how going forward if they do what they say they're going to do. I think they will.
All right, thank you. I see Legislator Stiganga, you're up.
I don't know how anybody else, but I lost my FirstNet. I thought that our cell phones were supposed to be a little bit better on the service, but AT&T went down during all that.
Yeah.
So when we couldn't use our Verizon, which are personal phones, AT&T, we lost everything, and they were down for hours. So I was under the impression that our cell phones being on that FirstNet thing would put us on a priority so that we could actually be able to conduct business and deal with any type of emergency. And we were all down. Is anybody looking into that as well?
Yeah, cell signals and cell towers are up here, right? They're doing their thing. At some point, they have to go to ground.
Right.
And AT&T, their switch is in that. It went through the Middletown setup there. So, you know, their towers didn't go down. Some of them may have power-wise, but when that cell phone call goes to ground to come into the building, it goes through that selective router in Middletown. Verizon has a different setup. So, yeah, I mean, after that, we ended up putting dual SIM cards in I have an AT&T FirstNet phone. It did not work that night. So we're doing dual SIMs in our emergency phone so we can have Verizon or AT&T. But, you know, it just shows how, you know, no matter how much we do on this side, we are dependent on private companies. Their technology has to work in conjunction with our technology. So,
okay, so I guess my question is, are we actually dealing with AT&T on that too? Because my understanding is the reason we went with AT&T and the FirstNet was because it was supposed to be superior, that if something happened, we would all still be able to use our phones and stay in touch with each other.
Well, the real reason we went with AT&T was they offered us a better financial deal through General Services. FirstNet is a system that they're building the airplane as they're flying it. They don't have these Band 14 towers up. There might be one around, two around. It's, you know, it works in New York City. They're trying to expand it, but they sold FirstNet, and they're, like I said, they're building the airplane as they're flying it. So it's not where they need to be. They have the federal contract for it, and in theory, it'll work well. Verizon is doing the same thing on their side. They're going to have a priority call channel. So we've spoken to both carriers on it. But AT&T all along, we've complained to them about, you know, you sold FirstNet. It's like us selling a radio system, and it works a little bit. It's got to work day one out of the box, or people aren't going to believe in the system. So AT&T, you know, we weren't happy with them even back a year ago when they started saying, hey, FirstNet, you know.
So my follow-up question to that is that this was like a minor blip for everybody. But in the event that this was actually a full-fledged emergency, are we putting in something into place so that the legislature and the county employees, anybody who's on that particular phone system or group, do we have something that's being programmed now or set up as a backup so that in the event we do have like a major emergency catastrophe, that we will know how to actually be able to communicate with the other legislators, the county exec, with you, so that we can report from our areas what's going on if we can't actually get to the county and you know, like have that contact.
Right. What we are going to do, our VoIP phones were working. Our voice over internet phones were working. So we're going to put additional lines in here, and we'll make sure that you guys have that. It'll be a backup emergency line. But aside from a satellite phone, if you guys want to buy satellite phones,
No, I don't think so.
they work. I mean, if Verizon and AT&T's technology fail, it fails. You know, we're not building a cellular phone network. We rely on AT&T and Verizon and Frontier, their pieces of the puzzle to work. So I said to Kevin when we talked about the initial failure, and Frontier is sort of this company that's reorganizing, bankrupt, trying to sell itself. Unless we buy Frontier, I don't think you guys feel like doing that. We're kind of dealing with what they are. So as far as emergency communications, we have satellite phones, but I don't think you guys want to buy satellite phones. That'll work, but we're just not in a position to beef up private networks to that extent. They're going to either work or fail.
No, I would just like to see something like some kind of SOP or something in place in case something like that ever happened, that everybody would know where we could go to connect and get information if those cell phones go down.
We could probably work on something like that, but you can always come to the zombie apocalypse building. I mean, this building hopefully will never go completely down. It was built.
Brendan, I'm in Blooming Grove. When we had the last big gigantic flood, nobody could move. Every road was completely flooded out.
Yep.
So it's not like I could hop in the car and come up there.
You got to get an airboat down there.
Hey, listen, we'll figure it out. But you know what I'm saying is, I just see something so that we're aware of if something big happened, we'd be able to reach out to somebody or know how to get in touch with somebody for our particular areas. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, anybody else have any questions for the commissioner with respect to 911?
Lujan.
Go ahead, Legislator Lujan.
I remember not only this time around, but we had that big tornado here in the city of Newburgh. The phone service for several days was so spotty. The internet service so spotty, and it was very, very difficult to reach. To reach people to kind of get information about what kind of help we could get asked for here. Obviously we were able to get a hold of people afterwards, and I know that the mayor and others were working very, very closely with people. But I know our phones were really, and also the roads were so badly damaged after that tornado that it was also pretty bad to be traveling. So I definitely agree that the last two big storms that we've had have been strong indicators about the importance of having about how communication has to be a priority. So, and us figuring out something that would work better might really be worth us looking into.
Well, the radio system countywide worked well, so I guess if someone needed a radio, Brendan could hand you a radio. There's probably a few spares around, and that worked perfectly. And we could actually set up a channel if you really wanted to, and that wouldn't cost much. But I'm not suggesting we do that. But in the event you saw something coming to a various community, communications with the 911 center could be maintained, because I think our radio system is supposed to be foolproof with the microwave system.
Yeah, I hate being the guy in the Titanic. It's unsinkable, but I mean the specs on those towers are unbelievable. So, I hope it never goes down. It's not supposed to.
Well, that's great.
Okay, thank you very much for that presentation, Commissioner. We're going to move on to the Sheriff's Office. I know we have Sheriff
Mr. Chairman.
Sheriff Jones with us.
Hello, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead. Who's that?
Joel.
This is Joel Sierra.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Legislator Sierra.
For Commissioner Casey, is there do you have a post-incident meeting scheduled, or did you have one already? I happened to be working that night at the firehouse when the storm came through. Is that something that you guys are looking at?
Well, we had a post. I mean, the main point of failure was that Frontier building, the switch and the selective router. So we had our meeting with them saying you have to harden this up. None of our equipment here failed. It's just there.
I totally agree. But I mean, to say that Frontier, it is what it is. I mean, do they have a franchise agreement with the county? I mean,
yeah, they're the phone company here. They own the lines and they're trying to sell it. They sold all their towers, but they did agree to separate their backup systems geographically, which is important. That is something Alan Wisbicki's been asking for years, and we're going to get that. But, State Police Middletown went down. Middletown Police Department went down. There's a lot of stuff that's serviced out of that building over there. and they need to spread it out geographically, and they agreed to do that. So that, with their battery backups and generators and everything, should be sufficient. That's something that was lacking. They didn't have geographical diversity. They need to do that, and they've agreed to do that.
Well, I totally agree with you. I know it's unacceptable. I mean, we are the government. To call the 911 system to go down, to call it a minor blip is mind blowing. I mean, residents have to call 911. This is not Africa. I mean, when you pick up the phone, you call 911, you're expecting help to come. I get it. So is this now something that we're putting in place? It's a policy. It's a requirement that they maintain these backups, or is that under
that would come from the state. The state Public Service Commission, the director of 911 was on the phone call. They would have to change the protocols. I know Senator Metzger has asked me to be on the governor appointee onto the state interoperability board. I've gone through the background and waiting for the appointment, but if I'm up at that level, it's certainly something I can speak to, that we need to change the parameters for phone companies that service 911 and what we're demanding that they have in place. So a lot of phone companies do that anyway. Frontier's just, this is an outpost for them. A lot of their bosses are not around here. So they're looking to sell, but nobody wants to buy a legacy copper wire system.
Gotcha.
I was gonna say they're an antiquated system.
The new radio system. Thank God the new radio system was working. It sounds crystal clear. Like I said, I was working that night, and it's a huge success on the county's part. And I applaud you, all your staff. You guys did everything right. But the fact that, Frontier dropped the ball, I mean, I'd like to see us hold their feet to the fire on this one, and maybe. Yeah,
I told them, I said, you guys, I have to go before the legislators and explain this. It's going to be a pain. It's going to be tough for me. You guys got to fix this, and they agreed, and they'll keep us updated. And it can. I meet with you guys once a month, and I can tell you where they're at with it. It shouldn't be a big lift for them to split it and put the selective router in another location, so we have that geographic backup. It shouldn't take that long. We'll see.
So we don't have the authority to hold them to a timeline or a deadline on this. There's really, we don't have any jurisdiction over them. Is that what you're saying?
They're not required to do it. They have what they're required to do by the state in Middletown. They're not required to have geographical diversity, and that's something they should be required to do. So they are doing this because they realize it's a weakness. And we said, look, guys, Alan Wisbicki told them this is a weakness for years, but they were in compliance with the state guidelines on it, where they had what they needed in Middletown. They didn't want to listen. Now they understand that Alan Wisbicki was correct, and they're gonna do that for us. But they're doing it because they realize it's a problem, not because they are required to do it.
Wow, that's mind blowing.
Yep.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner. Now we're going to move on to the Sheriff's Office. We have Sheriff DuBois and Under Sheriff Jones on the line with us. First up, I need a motion to discuss the corrections report, please.
So moved.
Second,
Deganga motion. Second, Lujan. Sheriff, you are the Under Sheriff who is going to take this with respect to corrections?
The Under Sheriff is going to take care of the reports today, but I'd like to make a comment after he gives the corrections report.
All right, great. Under Sheriff, the floor is yours.
Okay, so the corrections report, you received a new one about 30 minutes before this meeting started. It's all the same except for 2 pages. Page 6. The expenses were portrayed inaccurately in the first one. And also on page 17, the borders, there was an inaccurate number of days for West Point recorded that shifted the total days. So I don't know if you're looking at the new one compared to the old one. But in any case, the borders at the end of July, the billing is 5.75. or 5.76 million. So we're still on track for our number. But both of the agencies that are our main borders are ICE and Marshal Service are still not operating at 100%. ICE has not recommenced operations in New York. And the Justice Department in the Southern District of New York is also about 50% operational at this point. Unless you have any questions about the report itself, there's nothing particularly standout for this particular month.
How are we doing with respect to COVID?
Well, if you all, knock wood simultaneously, we remain zero COVID in our inmate population, and we have zero employees at this time that are out over COVID-related illnesses.
Okay, that's excellent. Thank you for that. Sheriff, you had some comments you wanted to make?
Yeah, just speaking of, emergency or catastrophic situation where the frontier went out. I really believe that the legislature should schedule a visit to the jail to inspect the new generation system that we have there that will light up the whole building. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, it was a $3.5 million project. I really think that I'd like to have the legislature over and have them inspect it, just to show, that we are prepared. And if the clerk of legislature or the chairman can schedule a visit over there for the entire legislature, not just public safety, I'd like to do that.
I just worry, I don't think you want 21 legislators hanging out, into the population there, all at once. We're not even meeting as a group in the government center, so I don't think we're going to get 21 of us together.
All right. Well, we can social distance, wear masks, and if you want to do it in, 7 at a time or something like that, which I think is okay. And we're not inside where the prisoners are anyway. It's all stationed outside, and then right inside the one part of the warehouse right there. So you won't have any. There's not going to be any kind of inmate exposures there at all. So I'll leave it up to you. But I just felt as though it's important that we show that we're prepared in a case such as that, where we wouldn't have to evacuate the jail.
Yeah, that's why we spent all
like
the money on the
that.
generator. We trust you. Go ahead, Kathy.
No, I was just saying I would definitely be interested in doing that.
Okay, so we'll set something up. I'll work with Chairman Brescia, but again, it's going to have to be small numbers. We're going to go in all at once, unless the governor puts us back in a full session. That, I guess, that would change things, but I don't think that's going to happen until potentially mid-September anyway. At this point, any questions on the corrections report? Okay, hearing none, then I'm going to move on to the sheriff's report. The motion for discussion, please.
Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Legislator Sierra.
On that corrections report, is that I don't have the new one in front of me, but is that inmate count correct?
No, that was one of the changes on page 6. It was listed as West Point having 18,000 days, and it's only 9. That's the only change.
No.
There was one inmate for 9 days.
The inmate count, the total count.
320. If you're talking about the 320, that is accurate, I believe.
Wow, is that due to the? Why is it so
the
low?
320 is due to the governor letting everybody out of jail. Yes.
It's bail reform.
Right.
That's the bail reform.
Yep.
Yeah.
So we're less than
Absolutely.
half.
A big part of it, Joel, is bail reform. On COVID, obviously, I think a lot of judges. I'm not really sure. I couldn't give you a number on how many bail eligible offenses were committed during COVID, but I know in a lot of cases the judges erred on the side of caution and set low bail or released people on real recognizance.
My God. How about the Are the other counts correct with the detainees for the ISIS?
Yes,
Those numbers are correct?
yes. And they're remaining static or dropping a little bit because, like I told you, the ICE is not conducting current operations due to COVID restraints still. And the other reason the inmate count is low is the police agencies across the county have been relatively inactive as well during the COVID period. You know, they're going to major cases, of course, but their patrol activities were curtailed and their interaction with the public was curtailed.
So are we looking for that number to come up later on in the year, or is that we can't give
You
an
don't know.
answer
It's
on?
hard to predict because you don't know what the changes in the atmosphere. I mean, in Orange County, like Commissioner Casey said earlier, you know, we have very low COVID numbers, very low infection rates, but the economy is far from open.
Yes, but the lion's share is because of the bail reform.
Yeah, I would think that bail reform and judges that might have placed bail even where they could didn't during COVID.
Gotcha. Okay,
Okay.
so
Legislators,
do you
again,
guys-
I see your hand is up. Was that left up? Kathy, are you there? She might have left that hand up. Okay, let's move on to the sheriff's report. Motion for discussion on the sheriff's report, please.
so moved.
Good. Sierra, is there a second? All right, I'll second it. You want to do the sheriff's report? I guess Under Sheriff Jones, you're going to handle that?
Yep. The sheriff's report shows a little less than normal activity. Same reasons. For your information, fingerprinting for handgun permits is out 6 months at this point. If you called today, you'd get an appointment sometime in March. We are just slammed. Every class week ever slammed. If you noticed on page 9, there was over 10,000 in revenue for handgun related classes, even though the classes themselves are half the size they used to be. We used to put 30 in, and now because of spacing and you get 15 per class. But and all the other instructors that are on our list are equally busy. I don't know what the uptick is. A variety of reasons, but everyone is slammed. So you might be getting calls from constituents related to the length of time related to fingerprinting wait time.
Okay. Anybody have any questions for the undersheriff with respect to the sheriff's report?
I don't have any questions, but I do have a comment.
Sure, go ahead.
The influx of New York City people who are moving up here out of the city, they are literally walking in the day they buy their houses expecting to get their handgun permits immediately. They don't understand that it's a process. I mean, they really just want them. And the other big thing is with the pandemic and people being stuck at home and knowing what's going on, there is a fear with all the protests, with, you know, the change in our arrests and, you know, putting the criminals basically back out on the street per se and all that. And let me tell you, I have more women coming up to me saying, can you please get us into a class? The people just want to make sure that they can protect themselves and protect their families. And it's, you know, it's a big influx when you have all the moms coming up and saying, hey, I want to learn how to do this. So I see that our handgun stuff will go up over the next year, probably immensely.
It's been continuing. Our classes are about 40% women from time to time. More than half the class is women, and you're seeing an influx of mother-daughters in the class, which in my experience over the last 6.5 years that I've been doing the safety classes, That's really unprecedented, that sort of activity. And it's really kicked up in the last 4 or 5 months.
Any other questions for, the
Yeah,
Sheriff?
KT, were you gonna just comment on EO 203?
Yeah, I'm sure you're aware there's an executive order that's going to affect policing across the state. It was issued by the governor's executive order 203. Actually, today we just got a soft textbook on what's required. But just to give you a quick rundown, it's the county executive that is responsible in the order, but most of it is about police work. The good news is, because of our accreditations, we meet a lot of these standards already. But that doesn't mean that we don't have to redesign some of our standards, which we do. But the reform plan must address, just to give you the list, is the use of force by police officers, crowd management, community policing, implicit bias awareness training, procedural justice, de-escalation training and practices, law enforcement assisted diversion programs, community-based outreach and conflict resolution, a transparent citizen complaint disposition procedure, hotspots policing, focused deterrence, crime prevention through environmental design, violence prevention and reduction interventions, model police and guidelines promulgated by the New York Municipal Police Training Council. That's one of the ones we hold. Standards promulgated by the New York State Law Enforcement Accreditation Program, and we are accredited. So those topics must be addressed in a plan. That's a committee appointed by the county executive, and they list, stakeholders that should be included. And so this is a process that's going to take months. And, we stand ready to assist the county executive. We made requests for certain assets be, assigned for us to use to redesign some of our programs, so that we can not only withstand the scrutiny of this overview, but better enable us to defend ourselves in whatever legal form these issues might be litigated.
Yeah, and this program also is required, or you may not be eligible for funding. So that's the big part. I think you have to have the plan submitted by April 1st. But again, we've already started looking at this probably a month or two ago. There was really no clear guidance yet on it, but now that we're getting into this month and into next month, there'll be clearer guidance, and we'll work with the county executive's office and the stakeholders to comply, so we will be eligible for funding.
Yeah, the directive is to the chief executive of such local government that has a police force. So that is the county executive's office. During our budget hearing with the county executive, we talked at length about this effort with Harry Poor, and he's aware of it. And I would expect we'll start going forward, but he has to form a stakeholders committee, which involves people from the community as well. And I would assume members of the legislature and various other groups.
Now, that's only with respect to the sheriff's office. Each town supervisor or mayor is responsible for their police agency to do the same thing. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Anybody else have any questions for the sheriff or the undersheriff?
Lujan.
Go ahead,
Councilor
Legislator Lujan.
Mr. Hines. Mr. Hines, Harry Poor has had his hand up also.
Okay,
I yield for Mr. Poor, and I'll speak afterwards.
sure. Go ahead, Deputy County Executive, the floor is yours.
Yeah, I'm here with Steve Newhouse. Mr. Newhouse is going to address this.
Hey, guys, we're definitely aware of it. We have actually the packet right in front of us. I'll put the camera on here right now. I'll be very quick because I know we're in the middle of the committee. So this is the directive right here. You can see this, it's thick. As the undersheriff and the sheriff said, we're going to put this thing together. My intentions is not to make this some political committee, but a substantive committee. Obviously, the sheriff's office is the biggest law enforcement group in the county. They will definitely be on it, as well as some of the local law enforcement, maybe our state police partners. But we're also going to expand that net out here and have our interested agencies, people that are dealing with mental health, social services. So we make sure that we have everybody in this catchment area. And look, you know, the police academy, over the last couple of years, we offered the most de-escalation and mental health training, I think, than any other law enforcement in the state. But we can always do better. And I think that's why we're all going to come to the table with good intention. So I am finishing the budget reviews tomorrow on my side, the executive side, the preliminary budgets, putting them together. And then we're going to start bringing people in next week and start building up a good committee that we can all be proud of. So I just wanted to jump in. I know you got a busy meeting, Kevin, but that I just wanted to jump in. I was in Harry's office when you guys were talking about it.
All right, thank you for that. Legislator Lujan, you're up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, no, that actually helped answer some of the questions. You know, I particularly was curious about what kind of community organizations were going to be involved. I have seen in Dutchess County, they have already started, and they have some a lot of community input that's being implemented, and you know that's really great to see. So definitely, you know, happy that there's going to be a community input, and that there's an intention to be diverse. So yeah, I definitely would like to see more about that. Thank you.
And just one quick thing to the group, you know, there's still guidance coming out on it. That's why we haven't just appointed a committee today. As you guys know, throughout this COVID crisis, and obviously with what happened with law enforcement, what's going on nationwide, the governor makes a lot of announcements, and it takes some time for things to catch up with him. So there is guidance that's being put together from the DOG in addition to this book that the governor's office put out. So I don't say time is, we have a lot of time on our side because we do have till April, but we also don't need to rush into this. I'm not going to just do this for a political statement. Other counties are rushing forward with this, but I want to, look, if we're going to spend our time on this, I want to make sure that we're doing a nice, well thought out process. So I apologize jumping in again, Kevin. I just want to throw that out there, but I think we're all on the same team and have the same wavelength here.
Sheriff agrees.
I'm glad to see you listening to our meeting. Legislator Stiganga, you're up.
Is it possible to get a copy for the legislature of that proposal that was sent down?
If you want to kill a forest, yes.
Yeah, okay. I mean, you guys all know that I worked in the jail system. I was down at Sing Sing, and I have to say that I work with a lot of people. I've been on the front line with a lot of victims, and I've felt the impact even personally on some things. And for some reason, it seems that the normal law-abiding citizens and the victims are being basically ignored while we continue to keep passing legislation and laws to protect the criminals. And, you know, I mean, I'm sure I'll take a beating for saying this and it'll all be live, but, you know, everybody has rights, but nobody actually gets up in the morning and says, hey, I'm going to be a victim today. And the victims are just going on the wayside, like their voices are not being heard. They're being put in positions where they're in fear for their lives. And you know, they have to deal with, at least it used to be that they felt like there could be some kind of protection when law enforcement was able to make an arrest and they knew that they would be going to jail and they could at least try and put their lives back together. And right now it just seems like everything is all intimidation, that our police officers' hands are being tied and our society is just being pushed to a point where we don't have any control. And it's just my opinion, like I said, but you know, I'm really worried about what this new directive is going to be. I understand that we should have different people from different backgrounds and different departments to address things, but I still think that we should make sure that our law-abiding citizens who are victims and are the ones who are having these aggressions against them should be protected just as much as the person who's being accused of doing the crime. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And for the county exec's office, if you're still there, please scan that in a share file. We don't want hard copies of a document of that size. Under Sheriff, I see your hand is up.
Yeah, the good news from our perspective is that after obtaining the CALIA accreditation, many of these things were already incorporated in obtaining that accreditation. That's not to say that we don't have some work to do, but we've got a lot less work than many other agencies located in this county. You know, it's just there's only a handful of police agencies in the state that are CALIA accredited. And so many, like I said, many of these things, this isn't so much changing the objectives of policing, it's changing the methodology of policing. And so I think we'll continue to operate at the same parameters. Training, as you know, in the legislature, you have collective bargaining agreements that incorporated training into every deputy's work year, and you've had that for 15 years. And so many of the things that the police academy just started over the last few years, we've been doing for a decade or more. And so, I mean, that's all pluses for us. I think it's going to be much more difficult for towns and villages, and you know, each municipality has to do it on their own. I don't think you can have one county plan, as I read it, but maybe the lawyers will figure something else out.
Mr. Chairman,
Okay. Go ahead.
Joel Sierra.
Sure. Go ahead, Joel.
Is the county exec still on the line?
No, but I'm here. Harry Poor.
Harry, I'd be honored if he needs anybody to sit on this committee. I'd be honored to sit on that committee. We're actively doing this here in Middletown. We've already had 3 meetings in Middletown. And again, if you need anybody from the legislature, if you need any volunteers for this committee, I'd be honored to sit on it.
Thank you very much. I'll make sure the county executive knows that. Thank you.
And I know he made mention of his budget. I know you probably can't mention anything about that now, but if he has any preliminary projections on the shortfalls. I know we talked about this earlier on this meeting. And they were talking that we can't buy masks, for people. But as far as the undersheriff and sheriff, I see the overtime in the jail is still on the rise. I know you guys talked about you can't make cuts at certain places or certain units or something like that. Do you guys still project doing that much overtime now that the inmate count is so low?
Yes. Inmate count has nothing to do with the manpower that's required by the Commission on Corrections. There is rumors that the New York State Association of Counties is going to approach the governor to elicit a change within Commission on Corrections standards for the running of local jails. But as far as I know, it's still a rumor, and we haven't been alerted by COC that they contemplate any changes in the near future. So it's based on bed space and square footage of your jail and lines of sight and classification and other things that lead to these outcomes. We have a reduction. We have many vacancies right now in corrections, and I think budget-wise, when we went through the budget process, and I know Harry's on that, our agency as a whole will roll up a considerable amount of money. We're hoping in the $4 million range to satisfy some of the gap because we've been making restrictions a reality within our operating budget since COVID hit. And so we've been trying to do the best we can at the direction of the sheriff. His staff was tasked early on for doing these kind of things, and to date we've been successful. We expect corrections overtime to exceed its budget line, but on the other hand, some of the savings on other areas will more than make up for that shortfall.
You guys, I know you guys do a great job of giving back some of your budget every year, but so are you looking to? You're saying you're exceeding on your correction side, but you're going to give back more of the overtime?
Negative. No, we're
I'm
going to
not sure. I didn't
exceed,
catch that.
we're going to exceed
I
our
didn't catch that
expenditure
last
line.
part.
Yeah, we're going to exceed our expenditure line in overtime for corrections. But, when you're talking budget, you have to talk the whole budget. The line is because of manpower shortage, and then you have to balance it against your vacancies and, health insurance and retirement. And because the prisoner count is low, but you still have classifications. There's not 300 and some odd people all in one pod, because there is a myriad of classifications within the correctional system. And theoretically, you could have a pod open, which requires full manpower for just a handful of inmates. And we do. And that goes on throughout the period of time, any period of time from month to month. So there's no direct number ratio between the number of prisoners you have and the number of correction officers you need. Due to those, classifications outside, they go to the hospital. You have people inside that are suicidal, that require special mental health treatment, and this would be an extraordinarily long meeting if I had to explain it all in depth to you. Just let me focus on that. It is complex, and although the number sounds low, it doesn't mean you've shut the jail down to a few pods. Most of our pods are open.
So we're at the mercy of the state. It's going to take new legislation to pass in order to do to change our jail system.
Well, the governor controls the Commission on Corrections through appointees. So I think that's why the New York State Association of Counties is approaching them. They want, they have the same problems everybody else does. They want to find some savings wherever they can. I just don't think that the New York State Association of Counties is articulating the right number. I think they're trying to associate number of prisoners with number of correction officers. And that's simplistic at best.
There's no organization that can do a study like they do the accreditation. There's nobody that looks at jails. I mean, we can't be the only jail that's going through something like this, is there? There's no
the Commission on Corrections is the New York State entity that could re-examine every jail, come up with different manpower counts, make considerations for whatever they want to make considerations for, and rewrite their regulations to reflect it to be so.
So we can't make a.
But we're not aware of any. We're not aware of any initiative that's coming from the governor to alter the current operating standards on the Commission of Corrections. So
we can't make a request for our specific jail.
We think manpower. That's a two-edged knife. You could make a request for a re-examination, and it may not result in less manpower. It may result in more manpower, or a redistribution of your manpower, maybe into more supervisors and less line, and there's always a bit of a risk to doing that. It will not necessarily result in cost savings.
Gotcha. My concern is that, I mean, what we're paying to heat this jail, to cool this jail. I mean, for this inmate count, it's got to be a crazy figure. I mean, what does that break down budgetarily to per inmate? How much does it cost? I mean, it's got to be a crazy figure there. But anyway, I guess that's another discussion for another time. I was just wondering if you guys are looking at that in your office, in your command structure, and seeing if you guys are doing an internal study or anything of that nature.
Well, we always study. I mean, our focus right now is trying to increase the number of U.S. Marshal prisoners and reduce the number of ICE prisoners over time, because Marshal prisoners are people, under arrest and or indicted by the Southern District of New York, and that'll be a steady stream of prisoners for a long period of time. Where ICE, since that we live here in the state of New York, And given the direction of the political leadership in the state of New York, assuring long-term ICE detainees, is that really at the whim of government? They can change.
Are we still going to hit that figure that we budgeted for the ICE detainees and the marshal detainees?
Yes. Right now, as we speak today, we are still on track to meet our budget forecast.
Beautiful. All right. I appreciate it, Undersecretary Sheriff. Thank you.
Thank you. I see Legislator Stigang's hand went up, but it went back down. You're good, Cap. You're still muted. Okay. So hearing no other questions, I guess a motion to adjourn is in order. Thank you very much for your report, Sheriff and Undersheriff. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Moved.
Stiganga, second. All right, I'll second that. Thank you very much. This meeting is over. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Stay safe.
Take
Thank
care,
you.
Chairman.
Hey, Kevin.
Yes.